because you're learning along the way, not just who they are, but who you are as a parent. And you're like, oh crap, both of them have damaged my car, driving the car. I wanted to make sure that I was at every sporting event, every dance recital, every graduation, everything possible, because my dad couldn't be.
Right. So I am here today with one of my favorite dads. Tony, will you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Tony, and I'm a great dad, and I have some wisdom to share with all of you.
Awesome. So let's start with the premise of this, the idea that we're just recording a conversation of two dads who've been through it. But the idea is that this is really the conversations that we wish we had or been exposed to before becoming dads. So yeah, just curious about your thought about that as like the premise and what we're doing.
I think this is sorely needed. I love that you put this together. I think that, when I was a kid, it was always, my parents would say, there's no manual there's no handbook that comes out when you have a kid, and there's no way instruction book for raising kids. And I think now there's probably 1 billion in one of those. And so I think the question then is, what bits and pieces can I use and glean as a father raising kids? And so I think what you're putting together is going to be very, very impactful, very useful for anyone who watches and or reads whatever you're putting together.
Of that, did you ever read any books on being a dad, or like did you have anything that was guiding you, or are you just like everyone else making it up as you go along?
Honestly, at first making it up as we went along, and I think that you do bring into your plan how you were raised, right? Good, bad, or indifferent, good, bad, or ugly. And I think you have these ideas on, well, I'll never be that kind of dad. I want to be this kind of dad. And I think you just, most people just try to figure it out as they go along. However, with that being said, my wife and I did subscribe to the Love and Logic program, right? Which is, consequences with empathy. We didn't do that until I think after our second daughter was born, and my first daughter was born 2.5 years before my second one. And I think that was the right time for us to do that. We listened to the audiobooks instead of read them. And we made a sort of concerted effort to listen to the same chapters every single day, so that when we came home, we were on the same page, if you will, right? That didn't mean we always were, because we have different interpretations of what that wisdom being imparted to us may have meant to each other, or how we heard them. But Love Languages, that's a book we read, or I read anyway, through a different program that I was part of at the time. And I thought that was super helpful. And then, being immersed in this coaching program where we talk about game styles and understanding how people are wired differently biologically to respond to things under pressure. And I don't know if any dads are out there, but guess what? Being a dad is pressure. Being a kid is pressure. So those biological styles are present all the time. And the question is, how do we navigate those in a way that produce great outcomes for us as parents and for your kids?
I want to dig in a little bit there to one, like what's it been like raising daughters compared to what you may have thought that was going to be before we like separate them into like that they're different styles. Like,
right.
Let's start with daughters.
Right. Yeah, look, being a girl dad is, I would say, more fulfilling than I ever imagined. And I can't say how it would be if I had a son. I just don't. I can go into what I think, and I feel like I would have been much harder on a son, because maybe that's what my experience was with my dad, right? Versus the way I perceived it to be with my sisters.
Yeah.
As they got older, I just felt so fulfilled with being their father, so grateful, so blessed. And it doesn't mean that we didn't have trials and tribulations along the way, right? I think that everybody who is a parent will know that, that happens. But overall, I'm so proud of them. They're amazing kids. They're great contributors. And it's so fulfilling to me and rewarding to be a father to them.
All right, so here it is a couple decades later, and you're self-identifying as girl dad. But I'm just thinking, before they were born, what thoughts did you have about I don't know, knowing the gender, like being a dad for different genders, what it might have meant for you to be a dad to a daughter?
Um, so when uh, my wife Chrissy, revealed she was pregnant, that's usually the question I think that many expectant parents kind of have, like, do you want it to be a girl? Do you want it to be a boy? And honestly, I didn't give a rip. What I cared the most about, I think, is what a lot of people care and believe um, is that the babies are healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until later, closer maybe to Sydney's delivery, um, that I did give it a lot of thought. And I was like, oh crap, can I do this? Can I be a girl dad? Like, and I think that, early on, there's these superficial sort of visions that come into your head about Barbies and hair and nails and all that other stuff and tea parties. And guess what? All that happened.
Mm-hmm.
All of that happened. And it was absolutely amazing. The
Yeah.
whole experience, I would trade nothing of it, none of that in for either one of them.
Huh. Yeah, and I definitely would love to hear about the learnings like that. The idea that we as dads have gotten to the place where we learned and gone, like, I would have done that differently. Like, that's what I'd love to
Mhm.
really pull out, to know, like, what are the things that you've been proud of, that you're really happy about, that you'd like to share, and also, like, what are the things you would have done differently? Where did the regrets happen, where you're like, if I had another chance at this is how I would have taken it? So however you'd like to.
Yeah. Yeah. So these specifically were two things that I talked to my kids about in preparation for our conversation today. And that's because, part of the game styles thing is what I recognize is I can think that I'm feeling, looking a certain way to somebody, but they're like, au contraire. Here's how I saw you. Here's my perspective. This is what I saw. Right. Um, and I feel like that's probably mostly true, especially for me. Right. About the pride part. But there's one thing that I'll say right off the bat that I think I am, that from my own perspective, that I'm most proud about, and that is I loved their mother out loud.
Mm,
And I felt like that was so important. It was very intentional. I always wanted my daughters to know that what love should look like. And then I read this, little story, little anecdote about this guy. He was married to his wife. They had children, but they divorced. But every Mother's Day, every birthday, every important holiday, he showed up, brought her flowers, bought her gifts, so that his kids could see what love looked like, despite that the parents weren't together. And I thought, man, that's awesome to be able to show your kids that you love their mother, or that as a mother, they love their father,
mm-hmm.
even if they're not together, right? I still
Right.
think that that's a possibility. I think that's really strong. So there's that
Yeah.
part of that I think, from my own perspective, I'm proud of. When I asked my kids, as a father, what do you think I should be proud of?
That's a great question.
Both. Yeah, right. Like, because there's the other side that's coming, right?
Right.
And when the other shoe drops, they say, Sydney just basically, we would have conversations with her about discipline and things like that, and similar things with Emma. But this was just so pivotal with Sydney, in that she said, "You're always pointing out what I do wrong, and you never really say much about what I do right."
Mm.
And that shifted our perspective immediately on her love language, and it is words of affirmation. That's the most important thing to her, and more importantly, like, just more positivity about than negativity. And I thought that was, a learning moment for us. But the bottom line is, both my daughters just said, having us be able to communicate with you how you're feeling or how we're feeling, um, providing a level of trust and safety, and for us to do that, that's basically what they said. That's what I should be proud of as a dad.
That's awesome. I just saw something that struck me, that reminds me of what you're saying. I saw this on the internet, or on Instagram, or wherever. It says, "I
Yeah.
never want my children to pause and think, I can't tell my dad, he'll get mad. I want their first thought to be, I need to tell my dad, he'll know what to do."
Yes, I love that. I think my kids would agree with that. And what I've, just hearing that from you, what instantly comes to mind is my kids will call my wife for some things and then they call me for other
Mm.
things.
What do they call you for?
Um, Both of them have damaged my car, driving my car. And so they call me. Um, they call me. And so there's that. They call me for injury and medical things. But what's interesting is they call their mother for everything else 10 times a day.
Uh-huh.
I will tell you that I can't take any credit for this. So it's not a thing that I'm proud of, but I am so thankful that my kids have the relationship with their mother that they do.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's a different story, right? But I am super like, I'm super happy and blessed that they have that. If it couldn't be me, them for sure, or her for sure.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, and what you were saying before about just really showing how tight you and Chrissy are, like they're able to
Hmm.
see you and love you like collectively as opposed to like having to pick a side, which I think a lot of parents probably, unknowingly force their kids into.
Yeah, I think you're right. Unknowingly, unwittingly, right? They just, they go talk to your father, go talk to your mother. And look, we've done that, right? And my kids have also played mom against dad. And so we've had to navigate all of that in a way that, Chrissy and I had to work really hard to stay consistent. And, we weren't successful every single time.
Hmm.
But the product of what you were just talking about, um, I don't know about you when you were young. I didn't have this when I was young, but like the whole time, family vacations, our family vacations have been absolutely fantastic. And it always kind of blew my mind that my kids were fine with just the two of them going on vacation with us, even into their 20s.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
no, hey, can I bring a friend? Or no, it's never, I mean, sure, they've asked and we're like, hey, is this gonna be a family thing? They're all cool with that. And so I live in Arizona and we love to go to a place called Sedona. And if you've never been there, it's absolutely magical, fantastic from an adult's perspective. Kids, not a lot to do, but they love going there with us to just hang out, chill, peace out, hang out by the pool, and not do a lot of anything else. It's not like when we take them to Disneyland or Disney World or Mission Beach in San Diego, but they're totally cool with that, and
Okay.
everything's great. We just exist and have a really great time together, and I think that's I don't know. I don't want I think it's rare.
Well, I agree, and I'm going to surmise that you had a similar childhood to me in that it's not like I wanted to hang out with my parents. I didn't have a problem hanging out with them, but like I wouldn't go out of my way, and certainly if I had options there, I'd probably take them. But like your kids sound like my kids. They want to hang out with us. I try to get my kids to go to
Yeah,
summer camp. Summer camp is a big part of my growing up. They wouldn't go.
yeah.
Like, why not?
No, like,
They're like,
hey,
yeah, we want
stay
to hang
home
out with
here.
you.
Yeah,
I was like, so, all right, still kind of puzzled by that. What would you say? How did your girls wind up there? Like from a parenting perspective, from a like as a dad, how did that happen?
I do think it goes back to um, feeling safe to be who they are at all times around us. Silly, serious, upset, angry, super happy, excited, all through all the moods and the emotions
Mm-hmm.
that anyone can go through. Um, we've always had their back. One of the things that I often said to my kids was, "You can say anything you want to me. It's okay for you to be upset with me as long as you don't make it personal." Right? If it doesn't turn into a personal attack, then we're okay. I think it's perfectly fine for you to be upset about something. And so I think that plays into the building that strong relationship that you have with one another, um, and that sort of builds the foundation or the platform under which you can all exist together as a family, and be okay that maybe your kid doesn't want to go on this one with you or what have you, and be okay that they do. And hope that they want to. But I do think foundationally, it's that level of communication, trust,
Mm-hmm.
and allowing them to be safe that makes them feel like I want to be a part of this
Yeah.
community or this tribe that we call the Elliots.
Yeah, I mean, the safety, what I'm hearing you say is like that the safety is to be who all of them is accepted. All of them is welcome. Um,
Hmm.
which is, yeah, that's a pretty unique feeling. I can see why that you would want to crave that for sure. I'm sure
Yeah.
friendships don't create that. I am curious about what you just said though about like you can say anything you want to me, but don't make it a personal attack. Like how did you put that in such a way that I'm assuming like we're talking teenager, right? Is that when that came up?
Hmm. Yeah.
How
Yeah,
did
for
you
sure.
put it so that that was clear what that meant?
It started, back in, obviously Sydney's the oldest daughter, but I had this conversation with Emma too when she got to about that 12, 13, 14-year-old age, and several times after that. And I think that maybe even as a father or any of the fathers that are watching or listening to this will probably recall moments like this where you're having a stern conversation with your child about, it could be anything, not getting something done that they needed to get done, whether it be schoolwork, chores, or what have you, or having, a particular type of attitude reflect where maybe there's something else under the surface, and sitting them down and having a family meeting or a conversation with one or both parents. And you can tell that there's something they want to say, but they're just clamming up. They don't want to say anything at all. You're asking them for responses. You get 1 or 2 word responses. I just, in the moment, one time, I just had to say, look, it's okay to say that you're mad at me. It's okay to say that you're disappointed or upset. But what I don't want you to do is make it a personal attack. I want you to articulate exactly what is on your mind, but just don't make it personal. You can say whatever words you want to say. I don't care. I'm not offended by words that come out of people's mouth until they're pointed at me like a weapon. So please don't do that because we'll have a different
Like what's an
conversation. But
example? What's an example if that doesn't work?
um, I mean, look, I'm just going to say this, you can edit it out or whatever. But if she would say, well, I think you're being an asshole. Okay. That's a different kind of conversation. It may be true that that's how you're feeling about me being a dad in this moment or something that I said to you or didn't allow you to do. But let's just have a different conversation. Just tell me what you're angry about. Tell me what you're upset about. Tell me why you think that I wasn't being fair to you.
So point to the action as opposed to name calling.
Correct. Right. Feelings are on the table. Everybody has them, and we need to figure out how to navigate them, especially as teenagers and young adults, man. There's another manual we don't have on like how to navigate feelings, or we do, and they're just not one is correct all 100% time. But yeah, I just wanted to be very clear with them that all your feelings, thoughts, ideas, they're all valid. We just need to talk about them.
Yeah.
And I need to understand maybe something that is unclear to you about my perspective on what I'm seeing as your father, your parent, whatever you want to call it. What I don't want to do is devolve into name calling or patronizing or anything like that doesn't actually become fruitful as part of the conversation.
All right. So something you said earlier, which I loved, where you said, that I always made sure that I loved their mother out loud. I love that expression. And I love that, like making it very vocal, making it very known. You and Chrissy been together for how long?
25 years. Well, we've been together 27 years, married 25 years this year. We decided to make it easy on a guy to remember how long he's been married by getting married in the year 2000 and just remembering what year you're in, and you got it.
Perfect. So in order to be in a relationship that long, there are highs and there are lows, right? There are definitely rough times where you and she are going through it. How did you handle those times in front of the girls, given this intention to continually love their mother out loud? How did those interactions show up, and how did you handle them?
I think most of them, and to be quite honest, as I'm thinking about this, maybe we also did a little bit of a disservice on this part. We handled them most of them privately. And as much as loving their mother out loud, maybe they probably needed to see a little bit of the struggle that out loud as well. But the one thing that Chrissy and I have always tried to do is follow the same advice we give our kids. Don't make personal attacks on one another. Let's talk about what the issues are. And let's just take care of that with us. And you've heard this said 1,000 times probably, and we have said this out loud to our kids and to ourselves. It's not me versus you, it's us versus the problem. And we really embodied that, I would say, most of the time. Sure, there's times when we didn't, and it became us versus each other. But in the end, we were able to turn it around and really take that approach. Like, this is a problem. This is a breakdown. This is a challenge. And we're partners. We're in this. And we need to look at that as such. I have to be empathetic. I will tell you, there was a pivotal moment in my marriage with Chrissy, and I've said this to my kids before, and she kind of laughs whenever I bring it up, but it's a very pivotal moment for me, trying to understand her. And this was early on into learning styles. So we were decorating our kitchen with this sort of cafe coffee sort of motif, which is what we did in the early 2000s, right? That was kind of the vibe. And she liked this sort of wireframe piece of art where it was two frames, but they were both kind of like at an angle with each other. And it was meant to look sort of off or whatever. Well, I hung it one way for her, and I was irritated. I was irritable about something else, probably. I don't remember what. I just remembered that she stepped back and, with the person in charge of quality control in the house, she looked and she goes, "It looks crooked." And I just said, "It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to care." And you know what? She literally broke tears and she said, "It matters to me." And I felt like such a dumbass after that. I felt like such a jerk because you can't argue with that. And so I felt horrible. And I'm telling you, that changed so much about how I was able to look at her and see her concerns as something that other than just a complaint or just, being irritated or something. I'm like, that matters to her and it needs to matter to me. Mm-hmm. So that, I think, plays into what I was saying about loving her out loud, but also taking care of business in a way that, didn't be super adversarial. It matters to me. And look, you can't argue with that.
Yeah. Something you started with, you were talking about how, our ideas about fatherhood were formed long before we became fathers. So what were the ideas that formed for you? What were your role models? What did you see? And how did those show up and or change throughout your experience as a dad?
And this is that's a little bit difficult, but I'm happy to go down that road. So first of all, I'm a child of a sailor, and he raised a family of six, best he could on a Navy salary. And what that meant is by the time the sixth one came around, he needed to have two jobs. He needed to have his Navy job. And he was intentional about retiring from the Navy. It wasn't like, hey, after this enlistment, I'm getting out. And so there were plenty of times I never saw my dad for a long period of time.
Like how long?
I would be in bed when he came home, and he would be off to work before I got up. So it seemed like he wasn't even living there for months, maybe years at a time. And it wasn't like, thankfully, he was never deployed overseas without us. We never went overseas. The furthest, which you could say, was, the Aleutian Islands, Adak, Alaska. But we were there. He went 6 months ahead. So I didn't see him for 6 months when I was in kindergarten. Until what's funny is I looked up this photo of us on the tarmac in Alaska when we landed the first time. And I was like, however old you are in kindergarten. And I remember it very vividly, walking in the rain on the wet tarmac and seeing my dad for the first time in 6 months.
Wow.
So a lot of this stuff that I learned from my dad, majority of it was how I didn't want to be a dad.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that he was a terrible guy or anything like that. I loved my dad, but it was pretty tumultuous for a long period of time with us. And that also informed this idea that maybe I'd be much harder on a boy instead of being a girl dad, My dad was a recovering alcoholic. He was sober for 47 years before he passed away. And our relationship didn't get great until I got married in my 30s. And from then on, it got really great. And I think that the two of us then had something more in common. And he was ready to have conversations with me. That, to be quite honest, if you want to talk about regret, not in relation to my kids, but maybe it boils down to that. But I didn't allow him to be sorry for certain things because I did what I normally do. And that is, oh, it's okay. You don't need to be sorry for that. And I kind of robbed him of that apology and that sort of making amends thing that he probably waited a very long time to do with me. And so a lot of those things, when I decided to be a dad, I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I wanted to make sure that I was at every sporting event, every dance recital, every graduation, everything possible, uh, because my dad couldn't be. Not that he didn't want to be. I think he wanted to be. As far as other models, my friend Dave was really great early on, really great ideas and mentorship as far as, being a dad raising young ones. I'm super, super grateful for him. Um, and then I've met just people along the way who I think have been great dads. And there's a ton of them. And some of them just, hey, this is a really cool idea that this guy shared with me, or this might be a really cool idea that this guy shared with me. But for the most part, to be quite honest, Chrissy's really a fantastic mother. So being able to take her lead on certain things and being able to say that, I am not, the ruler of the household, but it's a collaborative effort. I think that's something that we both agreed upon too early on, was that we're in this together. We're parents. And we're going to do the best that we can, the best that we know how, and just try to move through it. So there's some winging it, and then there's some conscious effort to go, I don't really want to be like that in my house.
Do you recall any of the advice that you had gotten over the years, or any little tidbits of things that you heard and then you tried it out? You remember any of those?
Yeah. One of the greatest ones that I learned actually came probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago at the most. And it originally was about how sons really want the blessing of their father. But the truth of the matter is, all kids want the blessing of their father. And what they want to know is that they're loved, that their father approves and supports whatever their aspirations and ambitions are. So that was something that, after I already had kids, I'm like, oh, yeah. There were plenty of times in my life, and to be quite honest, in my dad's life, where my father didn't approve of anything that I wanted to do, but on the other hand, he was super supportive of something else, like those things back on the wall. Super supportive of that. But there's other things that he wasn't super supportive of, or he was really critical of, or really hard on me about. But his father, same or maybe worse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
About how the judgmental aspects of things, and look, I'm not trying to run anybody down here, but my observation is that, things are really difficult between him and his father and his older brother at the time. Just, I think that's why he went into the Navy, was to sort of escape that and build a life on his own. And I will tell you, I'm super thankful that he did, because I wouldn't have known better until, having a reflective conversation like this. I'm thankful I didn't grow up with some of the thoughts and ideals that my grandfather and my uncle did.
Yeah.
It's abhorrent to me.
I would like this to be true. I don't know if it's true or not, but I would like to believe that everyone's trying to do a better job than their parents. Everyone's trying to create a better environment than the one they were raised in.
Yeah, I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we do hear about patterns where that's not the case. Unfortunately, I've had guys say, look, hey, this is how I grew up. They got to learn the hard way or whatever. I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that. Sure, there's hard lessons to learn, right? And not robbing the kids of the lessons is also very hard to do. Trying not to be the parent that just gives them all the answers, and then by the time they get into college, they don't know how to think for themselves. That's also hard, right? Allowing some hard lessons to happen. But just because you were raised that way doesn't mean you need to maybe raise your kids that way. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. I hope I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about this idea of like pendulum parenting. Like, like I was raised with super strict parents, so then I'm gonna pendulum swing and be super allowing, and then those kids are gonna go like, that was too ungrounded and too unsafe. So actually, I'm gonna be strict. I wonder, like, I would rather it be like, yeah, like you're saying. Like I understand from an empathy perspective what it might have been like for my dad to be raised in the environment he is. And we have these embedded, I'm sure you experience this, we have embedded parenting ways of being that we don't even know exist, that only come out when you have kids, because, you sort of, it's in your, genetically, gifted to you through epigenetics, which it's a great word. I love epigenetics.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
It's gifted to you like an heirloom. right? But it's another way of looking at
Hmm.
it is also generational trauma, and it just comes out. And
Yeah.
I definitely have been thinking about how like the greatest legacy that we can leave behind is breaking generational trauma. Like everything else is sort of self-serving.
Hmm.
And so, that whole idea of we've inherited trauma through the generations. It's just, as a guy, Dr.
Hmm.
Gabor Mate, who said, yeah, he surmises that something like 95% of the trauma we have is generational, like passed on
Interesting.
to us. And so
Hmm.
parenting, I think, gives us a really good opportunity to break those cycles, to be the one that says it stops with me. So where do you think you've done that? Like what stories have you changed in your lineage that you are just like, man, I hope this doesn't get passed down to my kids?
This actually ties back to the question I didn't answer earlier about what do I regret most about being a
Yeah.
dad. Um, and what's interesting is when I brought it up to my kids before. Um, Look, I was very impatient, and I hope that stops with them. There were times like driving home from school or whatever, they want to listen to their music, and I'm just like, absolutely not. We're not
Yeah.
listening to Justin Bieber and Hannah Montana. And so I've expressed that regret to my wife. And in preparation for this conversation, I expressed it to my daughters, and they're like, well, yeah, but that's not anything I really think about. And all three of them said the same kind of thing. You exposed us to different kinds of music that we probably wouldn't have been exposed to if we would have just kept listening to the stuff that we were already listening to.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and so I actually with Emma, I was just having the conversation. I go, that's right. How would you have known about "Let's Groove" by Earth, Wind, and Fire? And then she jumps in and she goes, or "It Takes Two to Make a Thing Go Right." I'm like, so all of those things. And so,
Nice.
but the impatience thing for me is something that I hope doesn't carry into their parenting styles.
What
That's
work
the
have
one
you
thing that I
done
just
to
regret.
what work have you done to shift that impatience?
I wish I could say that it's something I worked really hard on, intentionally read books and stuff like that. I just had to have hard conversations with myself in those moments of regret and learn to just put the brakes on whenever I feel like I'm in a hurry or I want to get going. And my kids will tell you all kinds of crazy, funny stories about how what. And this goes back to love and logic, but I'll get to that in a sec. But the idea is that I just had to be conscious enough to go, you're being impatient. Does this really matter right now? Is it super important to hurry up and get up and go or get up from the table or whatever? What my kids used to find funny is that when I'm ready to leave the house, I'm ready to leave the house. I get in the car. And I'll say two of the people in my family are habitually late. Um,
Who
and
shall
so
not be
part of the
named?
right. I will not tell you their names, but anybody who knows me knows who they are. And so, and we joke about it. It is the fun thing that it wasn't before. But part of the love and logic thing that we learned is one that it works on adults too. I would just say, "Hey, my car's leaving at 7:30 this morning." I don't say I'm leaving. I say my car's leaving at 7:30 in the morning. And here's the rub. If you're going to play that card, you have to be willing to back your car out of the garage and leave at 7:30 and let all the tears fall
Uh-huh.
that are going to fall.
Yeah.
Um, One of the other things that my kids laugh about is once I'm done eating dinner, I cannot still sit at the table. I have to get up. The plate's empty, gets cleared. I got to stand up and move somewhere else. I can't just sit there at the table. The difficulty
Why? What's
is,
wrong with you?
I know, right? Why can't you just sit at the table and enjoy it? I don't know what it is. It's one of those deeply rooted, you know, habits that has me, and I don't know how to stop it. It
Yeah.
is. Here's the thing. I'm conscious. Every time I do it now, I'm conscious of it, and I try my hardest to still sit there, but I just started seething. I'm like, I got to get up. I got to get up. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it came
It
from,
sounds like it's
but
connected to the impatience thing. Like there's something
it's
there.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's funny is my youngest daughter is the slowest eater on the planet. So when we're all at dinner together,
Of course. Of course. Yeah.
she's maybe halfway through her meal. I'm done. And I'm like, let's
Right.
go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
The idea that,
impatience.
like, I wonder what it would be like if I ate more slowly never crosses your mind.
Not a thing. You know, I was in basic training in the army, and then the one you talk about generational trauma. How about non-generational, just trauma?
Yeah.
You know, when these guys come in and they got those big brown hats on their head, and you're standing there with your plate, and they're like, "All right, sit down, private. You got 30 seconds to eat this food. You don't got time to chew it. You don't got time to taste it. Just eat it." You know, and literally 2 to 5 minutes, you whatever you fit in your face, you got to get out.
Wow.
I don't know if that's what it is. It's what
Yeah.
comes to mind.
Right.
I don't eat that fast anymore, but I don't know if you've ever seen those videos on TikTok or Instagram where either the wife is trying to match the pace of the husband's eating or the husband then tries to match the pace of the wife's eating. Oh, they are hilarious, especially because, you know, you've watched this guy sitting, you know, next to her at a bar stool, and he literally takes half the cheeseburger in one bite and just, and she's like, what? And then he takes a drink and he chews it up. He takes another bite. She can't even swallow her one bite of burger before he gets into his second half of
Oh my
burger.
God. So
And I feel like, is that me? Is that how my kids see me when I'm eating so quickly and I'm done long before anybody else? I don't know.
what core principles have you sought to establish with your kids and your family?
Authenticity is one that comes to mind. Like, just be honest, be who you are. We'll sort out anything that has to do with any of that, right? Always just be honest and always tell the truth. Everything else is workable. Like, we can get around all of that. I think that's really the core principle. Just be authentic, be the real you. And I think that's what my kids are reporting back is we gave them the safety and the freedom and the space to do that. And I'm not saying I'm surprised by it. I was elated to hear that that's what they got. That's what they got from us, because I don't think I ever felt that way when I was a kid.
There's this Italian author. His name is Umberto Eco, and he said it was mostly about men, but I think it just works in general. But what we become in life depends on what our fathers taught us when they weren't trying to teach us anything.
Mm, the
And
modeling.
I'm just wondering, like, what do you think you taught your kids when you weren't trying to teach them anything? Like, just from the
See,
observation around you.
yeah. Um, it's. I think it's probably one of those things where, like, maybe what my dad taught me was, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that. Maybe. I think this is one of those questions. Like, I think it's probably more fair to ask them that question, but I understand why you're asking me. Um, I think it's how to love people, how to be kind, how to be empathetic, how to be generous. Hopefully, that's what I would like for them to take away.
Yeah.
Because I don't think those are things you can just sit down and write on a piece of paper or on a whiteboard and go, this is how you be generous, or this is how you be kind. I have had conversations with them about the distinctions between being kind and being polite, and that my preference is kindness. Because politeness to me means that they would be excusing bad behavior in the name of manners, right? That's what manners are, like, oh, excuse me. And that's okay once in a while, but kindness means that you love somebody enough to tell them, hey, you're kind of off track here. That didn't feel good when you said that to me. I think I didn't like when you did that to me. I think that's kindness, as well as all the other positive things. But politeness never addresses those things.
Mm.
And
Like, politeness
kindness can.
is what you do to avoid having the difficult conversations.
And when it's intentional, I think it says a lot about how you feel about that other person. I think it's easy to be unintentional and excuse and be polite to avoid those conversations, not meaning that you don't love them the same. But once you do recognize, I think, the distinction between those, and if you continue to be polite, it probably means that maybe you don't feel about them the way you thought you did. And it's hard to move into the kindness space, even for me at the age of 59. Sometimes I have a hard time telling people, hey, look, that's off base. That's not what you said. Or I thought you were trying to go this direction in your life, and that doesn't seem consistent. And I'm working on that even to this day. And so maybe I hope that's another one of those things I hope my kids learn from me, is that I'm always still working on me.
That's a great lesson. Yeah, I imagine that's what they got from you when you weren't trying to teach them that. You were working on yourself, and they saw it, and they saw you
Mhm.
change, and saw the value,
Yeah.
and that's a great one. What's a part of fatherhood that you found sort of unexpectedly wonderful, like that you hadn't actually seen coming, sort of thing?
The joy of their wins and their accomplishments. Um, Man, I used to watch things like American Idol and America's Got Talent, and all of a sudden, they pan the camera to this singer's parent, and they're sobbing, or this dancer's
Totally.
father, and he's sobbing, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Until you're in it, until you're sitting in the bleachers, or you're sitting in the theater seats, and it doesn't matter what age they are, and it doesn't matter what the trophy or the award is. It's how they're performing in a way that it's immeasurable to anybody else. It's like no longer about the competition. It's about where they're coming from, how they're performing, the passion that they have, and the joy that they receive if and when they win an award. Like what happens for them as a parent, you go, holy crap, that's so amazing for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not me. It's
Right.
for them. Now, my kids would tell you, no, that's a win for us
Uh-huh.
because they couldn't have done it without us. And
Yeah.
so that's also awesome to hear. But when they win their state championships, when they win trophies for all their recitals and all that other stuff, you're just like, the joy in their accomplishments is absolutely incomparable to anything else.
As you're saying that, like on American Idol or these shows, they'll do in the Olympics too. I think they do a great job as they show you the backstory, like the backstory of who they are, where they came from, gives you a whole new appreciation for what they're completing in front of you. But like as a parent, you
Yes.
have the whole backstory. You know all the
Yeah.
struggles, you know all the challenges and
Yeah.
everything it took to get to where they are to accomplish what they're doing. And yeah, you feel
Hmm.
all of that all at once. It's
Yeah.
profound. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then like me, like an idiot back in the day, you're like, why is that guy crying? It's just the kid's yeah, a great singer and all. But then you're like,
Yeah.
now I know exactly why at graduation, some of the biggest, strongest, burly men are bawling like babies because they know the challenges, they know the heart, they know how much, sacrifice and suffering that, that their kid went through to be standing there in this moment right
Right.
now. And
Right.
it's joyous.
This has been so great, Tony. I knew we'd have an incredible conversation, and I hope it's not our
Man, this
last.
is
Like
awesome.
I want more.
Yeah.
But what I would love to finish up with is some like piece of advice you would have for a brand new father, someone who's just stepping in. If you remember, like being a brand new dad, like the thing you are the most sure of is you don't know shit at
That's
all.
right.
So, like,
Right.
what one little piece of advice, like, could you
Yeah.
offer a brand new dad?
Um, one, the first piece of advice, just really recognize you don't know shit yet. And that's actually going to be a superpower if you're willing to learn. You don't have to have all the answers right now is another one because your kid is going to grow. What you need to focus on right now is how to support the mother, whether you're together with her or not. But how do you support the mother? Because she's going to do the lion's share of all the work for the most part. So what can you do to be a really good support system? And I'll even go, and say out loud so that it's not something you're trying to do silently. Like be vocal about what it is that you want to do to support them, and then do it. Um, Listen to her when she tells you what she needs. She has been carrying that baby for 9 months plus, um, on average, right? Sometimes they're born early, but so she already knows that baby much longer and much better than you do, believe it or not, right? They've been literally connected for 9 months. So listen to her when she tells you what she needs, what she thinks the baby needs. The truth is that sometimes neither one of you are going to know what to do. And my recommendation is that both of you don't go into a breakdown situation at the same time. Um, that you try to just, right, easier said than done, right?
Yeah, right. They usually one creates
um,
the other.
yeah, right. Right. Look, I know this, and I try to say that all the time when I'm talking to people about stuff like this. It's like it's it's an easy concept. It's really hard to do. Um, but if you can stay present and communicate with the child's mother, when you call it your wife, partner, spouse, whatever, then I think you'll have a much better shot of figuring it all out. If you're both circling the drain on your emotions and upset, man, it's really hard to come back from that in a quick way and have a good response. So yeah, I think that's what I would say. Like, one, know that you don't have it all figured out, and two, you don't have to right now. You just have to figure out this part, and then the next part, and then the next part. But listen to the mother and support her the best you can, and then keep trying to get better at that. You'll have your time when you'll get supported, but right out of the gates, it's all about her and the baby, in my opinion.
And it's great. It reminded me of the movie The Martian, where it's like, just solve the problem in front of you right now. Don't worry about the problems.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. That's exactly right. I never even thought about that. That's really great. The problem in front of you, that's the one you solve. And I'll tell you, I think one of the biggest problems is that the mother's amount of sleep.
Both of you,
she's going to be up a lot.
Both of you are going to deal with an incredible amount of lack of sleep.
Yes, but I will tell you, I've known, and I may have also been guilty of this early on, is that, I think as fathers, sometimes we think, well, only the mother can solve this problem. They're nursing or whatever. I'm like, well, that's not altogether true. I mean, you can plan for that, and you can at least volunteer to be the one that gets up, or if you're not. I know dads who've been the ones who didn't do that. I've known dads who've been the ones who, step in and do a lot to support the mother. And I would say that probably the latter is probably what I would recommend for every new father out there. Just step in and support that mom.
I got very good at pretending that I couldn't hear the baby cry when I was asleep.
Yep.
I didn't hear that.
Oh, what? Oh, I'm so tired from earlier. Oh, must be my sleep apnea, like snoring right through it.
Yeah. Tony, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I love you, brother.
Likewise, I love you too, man. Thank you. It's been an honor to actually get on here and talk to you about this. My hope is that this is that someone can take at least one thing away from this. Now, I wish I would have had this 25 years ago to learn from. So thank you for doing this. I think this is going to be super meaningful and super helpful for some current fathers and some to-be fathers. And, just to let you know, when these things start airing, I'm going to have my my daughter's partner watch these. I'll be a grandfather December. So he'll have an opportunity to maybe be one of the beta testers of your new manual. So we'll see.
Beautiful. All right. Absolutely. Well, until next time.
Yes. Hope there's a next time.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Dad Manual Podcast. If you liked it, please leave us a rating or subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you really liked it, please share it with a dad you love. I'm looking to grow a community of fathers who are ready to change the world, and I need your help to do that. And if you got questions or topics you want me to explore, email them to me at thedadmanual@gmail.com. I would love to answer your questions on our next episode. Until next time, I'm Tony Cooper, and this is the Dad Manual Podcast.